Oh, what's going on, my? I just want to bring you guys another Pi Network and PiCoin video from the outdoor hammock. In this video, I'm going to be picking up where I left off in terms of going over the PiCoin white paper from 2019. In the first video, I did the introduction, the problem, and the solution. This one's going to be the Pi economic model and the utility, and then the last one's going to be the governance and roadmap. Although this may seem a little bit outdated and there is an updated version, I think it's important for us to understand where the PICoreTeam's head was at before, what they were thinking in the past, in order to understand how the chain has evolved and what it means for PiCoin in the future. So let's go ahead and get straight into the video. The Pi economic model, balancing scarcity and access. One of Bitcoin's most impressive innovations is its marriage of distributed systems with economic game theory. The pros is it has a fixed supply. Bitcoin's economic model is simple. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in existence. This number is set in code, with only 21 million to circulate among 7.5 billion people around the world. There's not enough Bitcoin to go around. This scarcity is one of the most important drivers of Bitcoin's value. Kind of crazy to think about. There's over 8 billion now at the time of recording. Decreasing block reward. Bitcoin's distribution scheme, pictured below, further enforces this sense of scarcity. The Bitcoin block mining reward halves every 210,000 blocks, approximately every 4 years. In its early days, the Bitcoin block reward was 50 coins. Wow. Now the reward is 12.5 and will further decrease to 6.25 in May of 2020. Now, I guess then it's 3.125 at this current time of recording. Bitcoin's decreasing rate of distribution means that even as awareness of the currency grows, there's less to actually mine. The cons include inverted means uneven. Bitcoin's inverted distribution model, less people mining more in the beginning and more people mine less today, is one of the primary contributors to its uneven distribution. With so much Bitcoin in the hands of a few early adopters, new miners are burning more energy for less Bitcoin. Hoarding inhibits use as a medium of exchange. Although Bitcoin was released as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, the relative scarcity of Bitcoin has impeded Bitcoin's goal of serving as a medium of exchange. Bitcoin's scarcity has led to its perception as a form of digital gold or a digital store of value. The result of this perception is that many Bitcoin holders are unwilling to spend Bitcoin on day-to-day expenses. That's a fair point. The Pi economic model. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. Pi, on the other hand, seeks to strike a balance between creating a sense of scarcity for Pi while ensuring that a large amount does not accumulate into a very small number of hands. We want to make sure our users mine more Pi as they make more contributions to the network. Pi's goal is to build an economic model that is sophisticated enough to achieve and balance these priorities while remaining intuitive enough for people to use. Pi's economic model design requirements. First, it needs to be simple. Build on an intuitive and transparent model. It needs to have a fair distribution. It needs to give critical mass of the world's population access to Pi. It needs to have scarcity. It needs to create a sense of scarcity to sustain Pi's price over time. And the last thing that the team lists is it needs to have meritocratic mining and reward contributions to build and sustain the network. Contributions, to build and sustain the network. So I guess they want to reward contributors to build and sustain the network, which makes sense. Guys, I'm not going to read over the formula that they have here because I don't think it'll read very well if I just go over it and start listing all this stuff. But if you take a look at your screen, you can see the initial Pi token supply, how they plotted things. They talk about logarithmically declining functions, etc. I think the important points to pull out here is really just this first thing, and it's that the total max supply for Pi equals the M plus R plus D, and M is the total mining rewards, R is the referral rewards, and D is the total developer rewards. So again, this is just when Pi was first releasing this white paper. I think things have since changed, but it's still important for us to understand where they came from, what they were thinking about before, in order for us to understand where their heads at now, and maybe how they've evolved their thinking over time. We'll go ahead with M. The mining supply is based on fixed mining supply minted per person. Again, this is talking about the formula listed above here if you want to check your screen. In contrast to Bitcoin, which created a fixed supply on coins for the entire global population, Pi creates a fixed supply of Pi for each person that joins the network up to the first 100 million participants. That's very interesting. In other words, for each person that joins the Pi network, a fixed amount of Pi is pre-minted. The supply is then released over the lifetime of that member based on their level of engagement and contribution to the network security. The supply is released using an exponentially decreasing function similar to Bitcoin's over the member's lifetime. Yeah, I definitely think that they've changed this over time. R, referral supply, based on fixed referral rewards minted per person and shared between referrer and referee. In order for a currency to have value, it must be widely distributed. To incentivize this goal, the protocol also generates a fixed amount of Pi that serves as a referral bonus for both the referrer and referee, or both parent and offspring. A smiley face. That's funny. The only emoji I've seen in this entire thing. The shared pool can be mined by both parties over their lifetime when both parties are actively mining. Both referrer and referee are able to draw upon this pool in order to avoid exploitative models where referrers are able to prey upon their referees. I think that's a really important sentence to highlight. Both referrer and referee are able to draw upon this pool in order to avoid exploitative models where they are able to prey upon their referees. That is very important. It's unlike a pyramid scheme, which is literally just preying upon people who are below you. The referral bonus serves as a network level incentive to grow the Pi network while also incentivizing engagement among members in actively securing the network. Interesting. D, developer reward supply. Additional Pi minted to support ongoing development. Pi will fund its ongoing development with a developer reward that is minted alongside each Pi coin that is minted for mining and referrals. Traditionally, cryptocurrency protocols have minted a fixed amount of supply that is immediately placed into treasury. Because Pi's total supply is dependent on the number of members in its network, Pi progressively mints its developer rewards as the network scales. The progressive minting of Pi's developer reward is meant to align the incentives of Pi's contributors with the overall health of the network. Interesting. It'll be very interesting to read over the more recent updates and how they've changed this before they went over to mainnet. F, last thing and last part of this economic model, is F is a logarithmically decreasing function. Early members mine more. I'm just going to flash this equation or this bunch of equations one more time real quick if you guys want to know what they're referring to. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. While Pi seeks to avoid extreme concentrations of wealth, the network also seeks to reward early members and their contributions with a relatively larger share of Pi. When networks such as Pi are in the early days, they tend to provide a lower utility to participants. Interesting. For example, imagine having the very first telephone in the world. Okay, I see what they're saying. It would be a great technological innovation, but not extremely useful. However, as more people acquire telephones, each telephone holder gets more utility out of the network. Ooh, that's a good way of putting it. In order to reward people that come to the network early, Pi's individual mining rewards and referral rewards decrease as a function of the number of people in the network. In other words, there is a certain amount of Pi that is reserved for each slot in the Pi network. I'm not so much going to comment my thoughts on this right now. I want to know your guys' thoughts so far in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of this, how things have changed so far. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes to that model, but it's good to know at least where the PICoreTeam's head was at when they released this token, what they were thinking, the things that they were trying to prevent or help, and how things have changed. So I'm not going to give too many of my thoughts. I'm just going to keep reading, but let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. I'm genuinely curious what other people think and what they feel about this. I'll probably make another video a little bit more in depth in the future, giving my thoughts. So let's go ahead. We're going to go over the utility, and then we'll wrap things up, leave the governance and roadmap to a future video. Utility, pooling and monetizing our time online. Oops, sorry. Okay, utility, pooling and monetizing our time online. I guess it's kind of similar. Today, everyone is sitting on a veritable treasure trove of untapped resources. Each of us spends hours. Okay, a little bit of typos here. It's not just me. Each of us spend hours per day on our phones. While on our phones, each of our views, posts, and clicks create extraordinary profits for large corporations. That's true. At Pi, we believe that people have the right to capture value created from their resources. It's a good point. It's kind of like why meme coins, I think, will evolve into more brand fi. We all know that we can do more together than we can do alone. On today's web, massive corporations like Google, Amazon, Facebook have immensely leveraged against individual consumers or have immense leverage against individual consumers. As a result, they're able to capture the lion's share of value created by individual consumers on the web. Pi levels the playing field by allowing its members to pool their collective resources so they can get a share of the value they create. The graphic below is the Pi stack, where we see particularly promising opportunities for helping our members capture value. Below, we go into each of the areas in more detail. Here is the infamous stack that they're talking about. I'll be honest, it's not crazy in depth. They do go over it a little bit more here. I'm not a very techie person, so I guess, I mean, in my mind, stack means something slightly different than this, but I guess that these are use cases that they see. And if you guys aren't able to look at your screen, what it reads is Pi ledger consensus over top of shared attention and time, over top of shared data and connections, over top of decentralized applications. It's not over top of like a pyramid, it's over top of like a square, is how this looks right now. All right, let's do it. Introducing the Pi stack, unleashing underutilized resources. Dun, dun, dun. And they list the 4 things that I just said. Now we're going to read through each of those a little bit more in depth. Starting with the Pi ledger, shared trust graph, scaling trust across the web. One of the biggest challenges on the internet is knowing who to trust. Oh, preach. Today, we rely on rating systems of providers such as Amazon, eBay, Yelp to know who we can transact with on the internet. Despite the fact that we, customers, do the hard work of rating and reviewing our peers, these internet intermediaries capture the lion's share of the value created this work. Some typos in here, it's okay. Pi's consensus algorithm described above creates a native trust layer that scales trust on the web without intermediaries. While the value of just one individual security circle is small, the aggregate of our individual security circles builds a global trust graph that helps people understand who on the Pi network can be trusted. The Pi network's global trust graph will facilitate transactions between strangers that would not have otherwise been possible. Okay. Pi's native currency, in turn, allows everyone who contributes to the security of the network to capture a share of the value they have helped create. Okay, that's interesting. It's really just all about value capture and helping to get more of the money that you are helping create the value for these giant companies. So essentially, Pi is the company. We are all part of the company at this point. We're all shareholders, I guess. Pi's attention marketplace, bartering unutilized attention and time. Pi allows its members to pool their collective attention to create an attention market much more valuable than any individual's attention alone. I'm going to guess that's what Fireside has evolved into so far. We're starting to see take root. The first application built on this layer will be a scarce social media channel currently hosted on the home screen of the application. Yes, that's exactly what this is. You can think of the scarce social media channel as Instagram with one global post at a time. Pioneers can wager Pi to engage the attention of other members of the network by sharing content, for example, text, images, and videos, or asking questions that seek to tap into the collective wisdom of the community. On the Pi network, everyone has the opportunity to be an influencer or tap into the wisdom of the crowd. To date, PICoreTeam has been using this channel to pull the community's opinion on design choices for Pi. For example, the community voted on the design and colors of the Pi logo. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. We have received many valuable responses and feedback from the community on the project. One possible future direction is to open the attention market for any pioneer to use Pi to post their content while expanding the number of channels hosted on the Pi network. I'm personally not a big fan of the token gate system, but anyways, in addition to bartering attention with their peers, pioneers may also opt into bartering with companies that are seeking their attention. The average American sees between 4,000 and 10,000 ads a day. Oh no! Oh no! All right, I said I wouldn't have too many of my opinions. Let me move on. Oh no. Companies fight for our attention and pay tremendous amounts of money for it. That's crazy. But we, the customers, receive no value from these transactions. In Pi's attention marketplace, companies seeking to reach pioneers will have to compensate their audience in Pi. Pi's advertising marketplace will be strictly opt-in only and will provide an opportunity for pioneers to monetize one of their greatest untapped resources, their attention. I would agree that our attention is one of the biggest resources being fought over right now. Our attention, our energy, our opinions, our attention. Yeah, really. Okay, anyways, Pi's barter marketplace. Build your personal virtual store. Okay, this has kind of evolved into something we see today. In addition to contributing, I'm sorry, just butchered that. In addition to contributing trust and attention to the Pi network, we expect pioneers to be able to contribute their unique skills and services in the future. Pi's mobile application will also serve as a point of sales where Pi's members can offer their untapped goods and services via a virtual storefront to other members of the Pi network. For example, a member offers up an underutilized room in their apartment for rent to other members of the Pi network, just like Airbnb, but using Pi as an intermediary, I suppose. In addition to real assets, members of the Pi network will also be able to offer skills and services via their virtual storefronts. For example, a member of the Pi network could offer their programming or design skills on the Pi marketplace. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Over time, the value of Pi will be supported by a growing basket of goods and services. Very true. This is kind of what's evolved into the marketplace that we see, Map of Pi. If you scroll around there, you can see just everybody listing their different services, whoever's willing to accept Pi. So that's kind of cool. They've executed that, at least, in the last, however many years. It's impressive. Okay, last paragraph, and then we'll go ahead and end the video, is Pi's decentralized app store, lowering the barrier of entry for creators. The Pi Network's shared currency, trust graph, and marketplace will be the soil for a broader ecosystem of decentralized applications. I like that. I like that little nature reference there. Today, anyone that wants to start an application needs to bootstrap its technical infrastructure and community from scratch. Pi's decentralized application store will allow dApp developers to leverage Pi's existing infrastructure as well as the shared resource of the community and users. Again, so important. They understood this for a long time. The community and users and our attention are so important. Entrepreneurs and developers can propose new dApps to the community with requests for access to the network's shared resources. Interesting. Entrepreneurs and developers can propose new dApps to the community with requests for access to the network's shared resources. Not really sure what that means, to be honest. Pi will also build its dApps with some degree of interoperability so that the dApps are able to reference data assets and process in other decentralized applications. This is so important. I think we've seen people talking recently about liquidity pools at the time of your recording. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. I'm going to not give too much of my opinions. I'll do that in another video as things are getting loud by me. So thank you guys so much. Tune in for a future video. I'm going to go over the governance roadmap and then some of the updates. Of course, you guys, you already know this is Joe from New Money Crypto. There's smart money, there's dumb money, there's old money. Years from now, they're going to be calling you new money. Until then, I'm going to catch you all in a video soon. Much love. Peace.